a lot of people just can't let go of that idea that you have to work hard for your money.
Hey, it's Walter here, and you're at the Think Profit podcast, where we're going to help you develop a rock-solid trading confidence and avoid the potentially endless cycle of system switching. Right, Hugh?
That's right. We're going to help you develop a wealth mindset, develop a trading strategy that fits your core personality, and help you overcome the obstacles that stop over 90% of traders.
All right, Hugh, sounds good. You ready to go?
Yeah, let's do this. Hey, Walter, let's talk a little bit about cognitive dissonance in trading and how that can affect your trading, how that can affect your life, maybe even. What do you think about cognitive dissonance and how that affects traders?
Yeah, that's interesting. That's a really good topic. I'm glad you flagged that one. So for people who don't know, cognitive dissonance is when you have like this friction between what you believe and like what is presented to you or what you're doing. So like, for example, if you think that all wealthy people are jerks and they have to be jerks to make money, they have to screw someone over to make money, and yet you want to be wealthy and you're working towards wealthy, does that mean you're trying to become a jerk? Right. And so there could be some things subconsciously that you're like, there's some cognitive dissonance, like, I don't really want to become one of those people. Yes, I do. No, I don't. And so there's kind of that friction, right? So in trading, one big one would be like if you have a bias. So for example, right now, I have a bias on the dollar yen, where I put a trade in every day. In fact, I'm going to do it right after our podcast here. I'm going to put my orders in, and my bias currently is to buy the USD against the JPY. So buy the dollar against the yen. However, I put in buy orders and sell orders because it's kind of like a breakout strategy, right? So I don't really care if it goes up or down. I'll take both those trades, and it'll be one or the other, or neither. You know, if I was only going to stick to my bias, which, you know, I have a reason why I believe that the dollar yen is more likely to go up than down, but I would have a hard time actually taking the sell side, right? And you kind of see this, if like, let's say you were in a trade for like 3 weeks, okay? Maybe it was like a 4-hour chart trade, but it really went well. So, and you're using some sort of trailing exit. So then you spend all this time trying to figure out when to get out, right? Finally, you get out, you know, you try and stick to your rules or whatever. You get out after 3 weeks, you make a nice, big fat profit. And then there's a sell signal immediately. What are you going to do? Right. Mm-hmm. It's hard for people. Do you know what I mean? Like, you've already made all this money and you've already seen the uptrend, right? You bought and it went up. And then now all of a sudden you have a sell. It's kind of tricky, isn't it? To switch gears and do that, because there's some dissonance there, because you believe, or you did believe, that it was going up. And now, is it going to be easy for you to take the other side when you've spent so much psychological energy on the buy side, right?
Yeah.
So will you be able to sell? So that's another thing. And then just like, you know, like, let's say, here's a big one, actually. This is my last one. Example. It would be this. You believe that the best way to make money from the markets is to find those turning points and hold on for dear life. So it goes up to a point, it double tops, and then you sell, right? And so you need to hold on for as long as you can, so you can make a big chunk of profit. But your mentor or some strategy that you bought online says that you should trade the trend. Okay. Yeah. That's dissonance too, right? Because your belief is that this is how I should trade. And yet you're trying to emulate your mentor or someone who sold you a strategy in the dark corners of the interwebs, right? Yeah. It says you shouldn't try to find a turning point. You should just ride the strong trend. So what are you going to do, right? That's another like dissonance thing. So those are the way I look at it, kind of like who you're becoming or what you believe in terms of wealth and money, because that's a big one for traders. Whether or not your strategy fits your beliefs, and also the individual trades you take can also be a source of friction too, psychologically, because you kind of get married into one side or the other. So that's how I see it. Those are the sort of like 3 broad categories, I would say. What are your thoughts on dissonance?
Yeah, those are good ones. The only other one I would kind of add that kind of goes with your, you know, like going against what you believe about yourself, is that I think a lot of people kind of short circuit themselves because they have a string of winners and they make a lot of money or whatever. And then they think, oh no, I'm not supposed to be that successful, or I'm not a real trader. What am I doing here? And then they lose it all. They give it all back, right? I think that's one of the big ones that I see also. And I've done.
Yeah, they kind of feel like they're a fraud.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, I've done that too. So like it's definitely a natural thing for people to do. But yeah, that's the big one that I would talk about.
Yeah, I know really good traders that will pull all their money out when they hit like 100 grand or 200 grand or whatever. You know, they just start with a small account and they get to 100 grand and then they're like, boop, I'm going to go back to 10 now, because, you know, they know that when they get over that 100 grand, they start taking huge risks and they get really, really aggressive and they wipe themselves out. So in some cases, it's other people that tell them, like their wife. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, So, like, I mean, that's kind of one way to hack it. I think you should really get to the root of it. But yeah, that's a huge one, isn't it? Where it's funny, you know, we get told when we're growing up that you have to work to make money. You got to work to make money. You almost are told you got to trade time for money. And then all of a sudden this trading thing comes around and they're like, no. You're going to get paid for the decisions you make. So yeah, there's a lot of work involved in kind of building up your confidence and you know, refining your strategy. That's where the work part is. But then after that, it's really more managing your mindset and just making decisions. So you can, like, I could sit down and take 10 decisions today and take 10 trades, and I would either lose money or make money depending on those decisions that I made today, right now, right? But that's not the case with most people. They learn that they trade money for time or trade time for money, whatever. So it's weird, isn't it, when you start thinking about it's a different way, you know. But if you think about it, all the really wealthy people, they all have some sort of thing that's leveraged, whether they sold a bunch of books or a bunch of music albums, you know, software, or do you know what I mean? Like they always have something where it's even like Elon Musk or whatever, you know, he's an easy example, but he has different things that will, like, if the stock price goes up because he gets paid in stock or whatever, that, you know, that, so it's kind of a weird thing where if you really think about it, if you want to be wealthy, the two broad paths are usually real estate or the markets. And you could argue that real estate is a market as well, right? I would argue that, but yeah, but it's never really trading money for time. You don't really see, other than like maybe surgeons or anesthesiologists or something like that, or lawyers, you know, usually, and even lawyers, when you get high up, you're actually no longer making the money from your own hours, because you become a partner. You're making you're making the money from the profits of the firm, right? Because you basically own a part of the firm as a partner, right? So you have a share in that. So even then, you know, the big time lawyers, they're not even really trading time for money anymore. It's so important. It's so interesting how that's so ingrained in our culture. Like even in like healing circles or healing modalities that I've studied, a lot of people just can't let go of that idea that you have to work hard for your money. And I think that's something that everybody has to really work on and really evaluate. Why am I believing that? And, you know, does that serve me or does it not? Yeah, exactly. I mean, I had a discussion with a friend the other day, a couple weeks ago, and he was saying, I just don't understand how someone could just, like, we were talking about cryptos or whatever. He's like, I don't understand how someone could just like all of a sudden be worth $1 billion or whatever, you know, 100 million. He had like a big number in his head. And I was thinking, like, you know, the Native Americans when the colonists came, the Native Americans, they didn't have a wheel. Now they did have a wheel for their kids. So their kids had little wheel cars, right? Like they'd give little things to push around and stuff, because like little boys like that stuff, right? As we all know. But they didn't have wagons or anything like that. They had sleds, so their horses could pull like sleds, right? But they didn't use the wheel, even though they knew what a wheel was, and they actually made the wheel into toys. They didn't use it. Now, my thinking is, what if there was someone in a tribe that had come up with the wagon, or like some sort of wheeled sled rather than the sled that they had? Imagine what that would have been worth to all the tribes, and imagine how many tribes would have wanted traded with him, because basically he came up with an idea, you know, turn these sleds into wheeled sleds, and how valuable that would have been, and how useful would have, provided that it worked. And the plains can be pretty rocky and rough and all that stuff. We know all that from the wagon trails, right? But I'm just saying, like, that's an idea to me. Like, that's an example of someone who could have, it didn't happen, but it could have been like $1 billion idea back in the old days, right?
Mhm.
I mean, billion, whatever, whatever, however they traded back then. But, it's just really interesting to me to hear that mindset, because you're right. I mean, that's a big one. That is a big thing. You get taught from a very young age that, time is money, and you do homework during your home time, and you do schoolwork during your school time. And the first jobs you get are by money. Like my first jobs I got I was doing magic shows for kids' parties when I was a kid. And it was always time for money. Even then, it was, whatever it was, $80 an hour or whatever. It was really good money, but it was still time for money, and I could only do so many magic shows on the weekend. Right. So it's interesting how we just can't see what's all around us.
Yeah, definitely. All right, cool. Thanks, Walter.
Thank you.
All information in this podcast is for educational and informational purposes only and is not trading or investment advice.